that's straight and bright. By the light of the word.
Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
Man, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to make it. And God just speaks. He who began a good work will be faithful to complete it. You keep walking with me. You keep praising me. You keep praying to me. You keep yourself plugged into the church. You keep yourself plugged into these things that I've talked to you about and established in your life, and you will grow. Don't let Satan beat you down. Don't let Satan tell you, just call it quit.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pour into us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the word.
So often we are afraid to step out in faith and obey God because we do not know what the future brings. What is holding you back from serving God? Today, Pastor Ray shows you how powerful and real God is. God helps you overcome the fears in your life that are holding you back from serving Him. Ask God to set you free from your sin, to open your heart to His Word, and to obey Him in faith. Watch what God can do in your life when you surrender to Him. Well, let's join Pastor Ray in the book of Judges chapter 6 for today's edition of Light of the Word.
Before you go battle the Midianites, before you're going to be able to do anything great for me in your community, in your country, in your workplace, first thing we got to do, we got to take some care of some business in your household. Gideon, you go tear down your father's false idols. You go down and you tear down all that represents. Every time I read a passage like this, every time I have a week of studying like this, I sit and I take inventory. I take inventory of what cable channels don't have a parental block on them. Oh, I don't mean for my son. It's so powerful when my 10-year-old says, Dad, that channel's blocked. I go, that channel's blocked for me too, son. It's not blocked just for you, it's blocked for me. The ranking, the rating, it's blocked for me. And as I look at these things, and we all need to take an inventory of these things, before God's going to go do anything else, He says, first place I want to take care of is in your house. Is there anything in your house, Christian? I know God's speaking to you right now. We don't need to wait to the end of a service. As soon as you say a word like this, the Holy Spirit starts prompting and poking and go, here's what I want to talk to you about. Here's what I want you to go and take care of business. It's this subscription that you got. It's this channel that you have. It's this routine or rhythm, whatever it may be in your life. This is what needs to get torn down first. Verse 26 and 27, running back from 25 to get a running start through these. Now it came to pass the same night that the Lord said to him, take your father's young bull, the second bull, 7 years old, and tear down the altar of Baal that your father has, and cut down the wooden image that is beside it, and build an altar to the Lord your God on top of this rock in the proper arrangement, and take the second bull and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the image which you shall cut down. So Gideon took 10 men from among his servants and did as the Lord had said to him. But because he feared his father's household and the men of the city too much to do it by day, he did it by night. Philippians 1:6. He who began a good work will be faithful to complete it. Do you see where God is taking him? Do you see what God is doing with this man? He's hiding in the shadows. He's threshing at night. He's down in the lowland. We started off Judges chapter 6 with reading that they're living in caves. If they couldn't find a cave up on the mountain, they went and dug one out, and they'd move their whole family into a dirt hole to live out of the fear of the Midianites. And now here Gideon is, not only is he stepping out of the shadows of that darkness, now he's stepping into the forefront of battle and war. And look how God is bringing and developing him. But it's a step by step. And we'll still be reading in next week, and we'll be reading into the next chapter. God still continually works in this man. No man, no woman of God, no one here in this room, no one here on the radio listening will ever be born overnight into greatness. You can be born and saved into the family of God with one prayer. Father, forgive me of my sin. I receive Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior to wash me white as snow and cleanse me from all of my sin. But to grow and become the man and woman of God, it's not going to happen overnight. And that's good news. That's good news. I can remember 25 years ago, I can remember that like it was yesterday. I can remember Calvary Chapel of Merritt Island. I can remember I was sitting on the right-hand side of the sanctuary, facing the stage. I remember the guest musician. It was a wonderful night of worship. And I can remember like it was yesterday. I can remember the lighting and everything. And what I just said has absolutely nothing to do with my story, except that I remembered the moment. Because when God speaks to you, you know it, and you remember it, and you remember it forever and wherever it was. Saved for 25, or saved for, 6 months. Thought I was mighty. Thought I was on my way to being the great man of God. Thought I had arrived at being the man of God. And that I found myself just messing up, blowing it. And then you look back and say, how could I say such things? How could my heart be filled with such things? How could I find myself engaged in such things again? I thought God had brought me. I thought I was past all those things, and I was just totally beating myself up. I was in this place. You know what? It's just give up. Quit. You're not going to be like Pastor Malcolm. You're not going to be like that man over there that you respect so much, and you've been going, that's how the man of God I'm going to be someday. And God just spoke to me in a gentle, kind way. Because I said, how can I be this? I thought I was so far beyond this. And God just spoke to me so kindly. He says, Ray, you're still immature. And he didn't mean it like, you little immature. He's like, Ray, you're still spiritually immature. And you're going to have to grow. It's going to take time to grow. You're not going to grow into being that man of God overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take the word of God. It's going to take sitting at his feet. It's going to take all. And he went on and he spoke so clearly to me. But he spoke very clearly those words, and they weren't condemning. Ray, you're still immature. I just want to speak that word. I know it's for somebody, because I know it was for me. And you're wondering, and even regardless of how old you've been walking with the Lord, because every time it's a new season in your life, and God's doing something new in a new season. So it doesn't matter and go, well, that's for him. He was only saved 6 months. God still will speak these things to me and still say, Ray, I'm still shaping and molding. And he'll look back and he'll show me, look what I just did in your life last year. After 25 years, look what I did and the great work that I did last year. And I still got so much work to do. And I know that there's somebody, because we're all of that nature of, man, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to make it. And God just speaks. He who began a good work will be faithful to complete it. You keep walking with me. You keep praising me. You keep praying to me. You keep yourself plugged into the church. You keep yourself plugged into these things that I've talked to you about and established in your life, and you will grow. Don't let Satan beat you down. Don't let Satan tell you, just call it quits. Just give it up, man. Just walk away, because God will say, you're still immature, but I'm doing a work, and I'll keep doing that work. The Lord's so good. And I love, as you look through this and to develop this, as you look at some of the pieces that are here, he makes it very specific of which bull. The second bull of 7 years. Makes it very specific of what wood. It's the Ashereth pole. Use that wood. Makes it very specific of what rock, what altar, and how to build this thing. We see through the scriptures, Exodus 13, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, consecrate to me all the firstborn, whatever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of men and beast, it's mine. This second bull was 7 years old. There was a bull that was born 7 years ago itself, right? That's Pasadena math. Where is that first bull? What happened to that first bull? Why isn't the first bull being offered, since the first bull, consecrate to me all firstborn, whatever comes out of the womb? And what I want to share with you, and what I see through this based on what was required of them, they've been under the oppression of the Midianites for 7 years. We read in verse 31 of chapter 5, they had rest for 40 years. That first bull was sacrificed to the Lord 7 years ago. And here they are. Now they found themselves somehow drifting into this idol worship, somehow coming to this place that the God that they once offered and sacrificed to, the ones they were obedient to, suddenly somehow became not as appealing. But at one time, Gideon's father sacrificed that first bull unto the Lord, consecrated it, gave it to the Lord. Maybe whether it was sacrificed or was still standing, I don't know. But God specifically says, bring me the second bull. Exodus 21:2. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve 6 years, and in the seventh he shall go out free and pay nothing. God's starting something new here. They're in their 7th year. He's coming and saying, I'm going to set you guys free. I'm going to do something new here. And we're going to start by right here, right now, on this rock. And that's an interesting thing to look at as we look at that. And build an altar to the Lord your God on top of this rock. And as we read on, it's the place that he tore down Baal's altar. But he's under the terebinth tree. He's speaking to the Lord. God has met him. He's made this offering and sacrifice right there under that terebinth tree. And now God says, I'll take this rock specifically, and go and build the altar there with this rock as the centerpiece when you tear down the altar of Baal. And he's telling him, and you take that second bull, and you're going to use that second bull to tear down that altar. I know it's pieces. I'm saying a lot of pieces, but when you start working these pieces together, Gideon, this rock, take this rock and go to Baal's altar, because this is where you're going to build this new altar, because I'm starting something new. 7 years, I'm setting the people free. This bull that was born when you were free, and now during the 7 years of oppression, I'm going to use this bull as the sacrifice, to tear down the altar of the false gods of the world, and you're going to show that I can take the old things, because this bull, that altar, it's all Gideon's father, was all dedicated to Baal. And God says, I'm going to take what was once dedicated to Baal, and I'm going to use it against Baal himself. I'm going to use it as a picture to all the people of Israel that what was once a stronghold can now be overtaken and used for the things of God. And we see it every day. We see people who were once addicted. People who were once addicted to drugs or had addiction to alcohol or addiction to pornography or whatever these things, and God sets them free. God uses them and starts something new, a new beginning for them, and they go and they tear down those old things. And you know what God does then? He says, now go and you show the rest of the world that you can be free. You're now my centerpiece and my picture. What was once dedicated to the false gods of the world is now dedicated to me. And you can stand up and you can show to the world, you can be free. Because God can do something new in your life. God's always ready to do something new in your life. And he will start something new based on, and the word here for verse 26, and build an altar to the Lord your God on top of this rock. The word is stronghold. It wasn't the rock that was powerful. It was the communion that Gideon had with God on that rock. It was where he surrendered his will to God. It's where he recognized him as the immovable God. It's where he and God had a communion and a oneness that he came into a peace. And now this becomes the stronghold, not the rock, but that communion, that connection. There's an altar and there's an innocent sacrifice. And that's where peace and then power will flow from. And can you picture the story? How big is this rock? Last week I told you that an ephod would cook close to 40 loaves of our bread. Now they're unleavened, so they're flat, but that's still 40 unleavened, and he put a goat on it. How big is the goat? It was a young goat. All I can say, it's a big rock. It's not a huge rock, but it's a big rock. And here Gideon is. He's picking this rock up. Picture it. He's picking this rock up. Is it carrying it with 2 arms? Is he throwing it over his shoulder? But he's coming and he's getting 10 men. He's going, come here, follow me. Where are we going? You'll see. Where's Gideon going? Has he lost his mind? He's got a rock and he's saying, follow me. And I think it's a beautiful picture because that's what we do. We pick up the rock, the stronghold. And we say to people, follow me. Watch what God will do when we submit ourselves to him. Watch what God will do when we lay that altar with the innocent sacrifice down as a stronghold. And Gideon goes, lays that rock down, takes the bull that was destined because these two tie together. It's obvious that Gideon's father, it's his altar to Baal, which the whole city would worship at. His father was a leader. It's obvious that God's saying, use your father's bull, not Gideon's or anything that Gideon. Use what your father owns that he was going to destine to Baal. You come, tear down that altar with that bull. Now take this rock, this stone, build a new altar, and take that one thing that was once dedicated to Baal and sacrifice it and show that there's a God who's powerful and a God who's real that can overcome that thing that was once dedicated to the false gods. Back to what needs to be destroyed in our home, or back to what's in our heart that needs to be destroyed. God says, I'm starting something new. And then I want you to show everybody around, I'm starting something new. But it's all based on this rock, this stronghold, this altar of the cross and the innocent sacrifice that's upon it. What a beautiful, powerful picture. So Gideon now is going to lead others to rise up and rally because they see that false god can be torn down. And that false god no longer has power over me. And that false god can do nothing for me. And look at verse 28 through 30. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, there was an altar of Baal torn down, and the wooden image that was beside it was cut down. And the second bull was being offered on the altar which had been built. So they said to one another, who's done this thing? And when they had inquired and asked, they said to Gideon, the son of Joash has done this thing. And the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son that he may die, because he has torn down the altar of Baal, and because he has cut down the wooden image that was beside it. Gideon went at night. We know he feared the men of the city, and I think I would fear it too. As much so, Gideon had one objective: tear down the altar. Gideon's objective wasn't a confrontation with these men. Gideon's objective was, this is what God has commanded me to do, tear down the altar. So Gideon is, as much as I fear these men, but he goes in stealth. I'm not coming in for a confrontation on a one-on-one. I have one objective, and it's to tear this altar down. And the men come and say, kill him. I think he made a good call. If he had went in the middle of the day and tried to tear the altar down while everybody was there worshiping, he would have died. He comes at night in stealth, uses wisdom, pulls this down, but here they are. Who did it? Didn't take long to find out. Then they come, say, kill him. This tells you how strong the worship of Baal was at this time in the promised land that God had given them. It's so strong that the heresy of this false religion would become the dominant religion. There wouldn't even be a debate over, should it have been torn down? What statement has been made? It was, you tore down our God. This is what we base our livelihood in. We worship this God. He brings us grain from above, which is laughable because they're living in shadows and they're living on mere substance, few sustenance, because the Midianites are coming to destroy it. If Baal was their God, they sure have missed that he's not providing. But this is how powerful that Baal worship was. Kill him. Kill him. The whole city, kill him. That would never happen here. Right? That would never happen in the United States. Right? It will only happen in Iraq. It will only happen in Iran. It will only happen in Pakistan. It will never happen here. No one in this country would actually say, I don't know what these Christians are speaking about, but we need to silence them. Whatever the Christian speaks, there's wisdom behind it. We should listen to what they say. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven and I will heal their land. The church is coming into its last breath of voice. If we remain and continue to remain silent, our voice will be silenced completely. Boycotting's great. Political activism, great. It's not my thing. My thing is 2 Chronicles 7:14. I believe it's the only way, and it's the only hope. That the United States of America doesn't become verse 30 of chapter 6.
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the world.
We've loved walking through the book of Judges with you today on Light of the Word. We hope that today's message has reminded you of the great love your Creator has for you and how much He desires to be a part of your life. As you've been listening to Pastor Ray's message today, you may have found there's some questions you'd like answered. We'd love the opportunity to answer them as best as we can. So please send us an email at mail@ccaac.org. Let us know, too, how we can be lifting you up in prayer. That email address again is mail at ccaac.org. Light of the Word is created and produced from the services of Pastor Ray Bolus at Calvary Chapel of Anne Arundel County, Maryland. And we'd love for you to learn more about who we are and why we're sharing the gospel message. Visit our website at ccaac.org. And while you're there, sign up for our weekly newsletter and connect with us on Facebook or Twitter. You'll also discover a number of resources available to help you study the Bible and grow in your relationship with the Lord. That website again is ccaac.org. Thanks for joining us today. Our time with you has come to a close, but we encourage you to continue reading in the book of Judges. We hope you'll join us again here on Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.
You have made